Hello everyone, welcome back. Today we will be seeing game of Hans Neiman versus Gukesh. Hans has currently won the Grand Chess Tour, Super Rapid and Blitz Chess Championship, while Gukesh is the current world champion. So let's see how Hans put a very clean effort to beat Gukesh. D4, Gukesh opens up the game with Queen's pawn opening, Knight F6, C4, E6. Hans is saying that I don't mind you playing Knight C3 because I'm well prepared in IMSO Indian defense. So D3, the Catalan defense is on the board. D5, Bishop G2, Bishop B4. So here you can play Knight C3 or Bishop D2, but in the game we have Bishop D2. Now you don't really gain much by taking on D2 because after Knight takes D2, you would take on C4 whenever black takes on c4, and that is generally a good thing for white. So that's why in the game we have bishop e7 back, knight f3, castles c6. So now that the knight no longer comes to d2 square, d takes c4 is a strong threat. That is why we see queen c2 on the board, knight bd7, bishop f4, a5, just gaining space on the queen side, h4. White says I will do the same thing. And now this bishop is currently undeveloped. So Han says I will develop that on a6, maybe knight bd2, bishop a6, rook f1. So white is trying to play for e4. But if he had gone e4 already, then the rook might be under attack whenever you would move this pawn away. So that's why we first move the rook away, and after that c5 striking in the center. White does the same. C takes d4, E takes d5, and after that, Hans finds this very brilliant move, d3. The point is that if you take, then after knight takes d5, this is hanging, and you are allowing a lot of counterplay. Black can play for like great activity on this c4 pawn. So that is why queen d1 comes, and E takes d5. Now white is going to be left with an isolated pawn on d5 that can be challenged, and he has a very strong pass pawn on d3. So knight d4 comes, knight c6 is a threat, so bishop b7 back, knight f5. Now this knight is attacking this bishop, also the rook is attacking this bishop, so Hans defends it, c takes d5, and after that bishop f8. Now, it's not that like you can gain much by taking this pawn right now because Hans will have very good compensation for that. So uh, Gukesh will have very good compensation for that. So Hans said, okay, I will recapture that later on. And after that, d6 comes. And now Black has to do something because right now there is tension over here, and also this pawn is a bit strong. So what will happen is that Black takes this bishop, king takes, rook takes, rook takes, and after a couple of trades, now the special advantage will not be that much mattering. It will, but with limited pieces, it won't be that big factor. So knight d5 comes, bishop g5, queen e8, trading of queens as well because d3 is an asset as well. So queen d1, keeping queens on the board, queen e6, attacking this knight, removing the defender of d6, and at the same time attacking d6 as well. So queen f3 comes, rook e8. You can take d6 anytime you want, but you have to reckon with something like knight c4. So Han says, I will first develop my rook on the open file so that rook e1 cannot come, and then I will do something about it. So after that, f6 comes, g6, attacking this knight, knight e7, bishop takes, and then takes up here. So what these exchanges have done is Hans has made weakness on e3, and his structure is compact, like he has one and two pawn islands, while white has three pawn islands. So Hans will try to outplay Gukesh on those pawn islands by attacking those weaknesses. So king f2 comes, knight e5, threatening knight g4 to win this pawn, king e2, and after rook c7, the goal is to not let white get active with rook c1. defending f6, b3, but this will give away c3 square as well. So rook c2, a4, king f7, rook f4, and just making sure that no b4 comes by attacking the pawn on a4, because if you play b4 then this will hang. So rook d4 comes, king e7 stopping any rook d8 ideas. So rook d5, knight d7, just trying to bring this knight to here so that you can attack it. This. So king d3, rook d1 just coming to attack this weakness now. Rook d4, rook g1, g4, and knight e5 check, and just like that Hans outplayed Gukesh to win a pawn. He takes with the knight so that knight e3 is coming as well. So knight c4 defending this pawn. h5, pushing his majority. And later on he wants to play g4, h5, h4 to make a queen. So knight takes b6, g5, rook d7 check, king e6. Not going to the back rank so that you have less problems and the king can help in queening the pawn as well. Rook h7, g takes h4, rook takes and rook h1. Defending this pawn, and now the goal is to push this pawn all the way to h2 and then move the rook away and queen. And that will be a winning thing. So very little can be done, and soon Gukesh will be designing this one. Knight d5, king d6, knight f4, knight takes e3. The knight on f4 stops h3, so knight e3 comes, king d4, and after knight g4, king e4, h3. Because the point is, if you take, then I have this, a fork. So Gukesh tried king f5, but after h2 he resigned, because if king takes, then it's going to be a winning endgame. Just a check and you promote. I think the more better would be this, because if you take, I can take back, and now I'm going to queen, because the knight, whenever it is in the diagonal like this, it cannot attack this piece, or it cannot attack it's the square that is in front of him. So it's a very fine game by Hans, who beat the world champion quite conveniently, and we learn that positional chess and removing the active piece of opponents is usually very crucial in winning good games, playing good games. So I hope you have liked this video. Please comment where do you think Gukesh went wrong, and I have also uploaded a brilliant sacrifice by Gukesh against Jan Schuster Duda. So I will put the link of that in the description. Please do check it out if you want so, and like and subscribe, and stay tuned for more videos. Soon we will see how Gukesh beat Hans. So thank you so much. See you soon.